So hey y'all, I'm back, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about this Activision kerfluffle going on because it's really hitting the community hard, first and foremost, um, and it's because the average consumer doesn't really know how any of this shit works, um, from the uh, professional tech sphere, because that's where gaming companies are, and they tend to try to obfuscate that fact to their consumers. And the tech world is actually pretty cutthroat. And there's a lot of things that consumers actually have the right to do with a product once they've purchased it. And in a lot of cases, even if they haven't purchased said product after a point. So, what we're going to look at is some of what's going on as far as these cease and desist orders that are coming down, specifically in the Call of Duty world, um, that is going on with a few of these modders that are, you know, basically patching security holes and stuff in older COD games and making stuff available to the public and freely and all that kind of thing. So they're not even selling this stuff, which they could, but that's a whole nother video. But um, let's take a look at what's going on here. Um, yeah, so you got people coming out. I hate Activision. They're destroying the Call of Duty community. Just ruined Black Ops 3, and that's in reference to. Oh, I have to actually look up which engine that is. And I just recently purchased that one to, start modding it myself. Excuse me. But uh, Activision has always been a piece of shit company. Period. Point blank. Period. End of story. They're a piece of shit company, and their monetization model is garbage. And they always release half finished games, which, from a customer standpoint, um, is not ethical. It's not. It's absolutely not ethical. It'd be like Apple trying to put out a new iPhone and only half the features work. Be fucking kidding me? I'm not even an Apple user. I've got no hate for them. I honestly prefer Android. Sorry, I do. Um, it just does more of what I want it to do, and because of my background, I can make my shit completely secure and have a lot more fun with it. Plus, it's also a lot easier to side load, and I don't have to root it and all this other kind of stuff. But that again, that's for another video. The thing going on with Activision is that they're basically coming out against this modding community, that is taking care of their older products and giving new life to their older products. Um, and they're offering third party support of their older products, which Activision is no longer supporting in the first place. And these older products, especially in the multiplayer, that have numerous security holes, and they have outright refused to their consumer base to fix them over time. And uh, being in cyber warfare and all that kind of stuff for a long ass time, that's a no. You can't do that. You can get in trouble for that if you willfully continue to sell product to customers with known security issues. Yeah, you can get in a lot of trouble for that. For each sale of a product counts as a count against you that you can be fined and or go to jail for in some cases. Um, so FYI, I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head how many copies of these different Call of Duty games have been sold, but each one of those carries a fine for its multiplayer experience that you, Activision, have failed to patch and fix for your consumers knowingly, absolutely knowingly. Um, I've seen the complaints over the years, and I haven't really played a shit ton of COD. I've liked a couple titles, and I've started playing a couple titles. Most recently with Modern Warfare 2, I uninstalled it, but um, I'm an old school gamer, and I just wanted to see what the hype was about. And I've not been impressed. The gameplay's good. Your monetization model is terrible, and the way you treat your customers is dog shit. And what you're doing to the modding community that you have isn't right. Because while these people could actually sell their third party support to us consumers, they have chosen to make things freely available. And you sending out these cease and desist orders, which, by the way, you really have no grounds for. Um, in my previous video, I had mistakenly said that one of them was using the current tech. That was false. It turns out that they were using, I believe it was the Modern Warfare 2 remastered engine. Um, so that one could still be considered kind of iffy because that's now considered a current product, depending on how long ago that came out. And I believe it's still supported. But then they wanted to go to another engine to avoid that, and you said no, and that's when you hit them with the cease and desist. So basically, you just need to back off. I mean, granted, they decided to pack up shop, and I'm hoping that they reconsider, but uh, you're kind of fucked up, Activision. You really are. Um, Basically, what a tech company has rights to, as far as for modding purposes, for distribution, and all those other kind of things, if they have a patent, they have to have a patent for something not to be able to be reverse engineered for like 40 years, or if it is, you know, um, they can collect royalties or whatever. What copyright covers is just your text in your game, your spoken or text in your game. Programming, the text can be copyrighted, but the actual code cannot because it's a it's a process. It's a method. You can't copyright or patent processes, procedures, that kind of thing. And being as programming is procedural, that would definitely come out in a court of law. Um, you know, so there's a lot of things that these gaming companies don't want to go to actual court for, even when they send out these cease and desist orders. Because all a cease and desist order actually is, it's not a legal document. It's not something where if you violate said cease and desist order, you're going to go to jail. What it is saying that I don't like what you're doing. And if you don't stop what I don't like what you're doing because you're hurting my feelings, and I have no other legal recourse, I'm going to sue you because I can here in the United States. I'm going to sue you. You made me cry. I'm going to sue you. I am honestly not trying to make light of anybody who feels that somebody has hurt them so bad through words or actions that weren't physical that they really did feel attacked or something like that. I apologize. I'm a bit old school. I'm a veteran, and I'm not that soft of a guy. I try to be, but I'm not. So I'm not trying to offend you if that does. But I'm trying to make the point that they're full of shit, and the cease and desists really have no actual teeth. Um, because if you don't follow through with the cease and desist, the worst that can happen to you is that you're going to go to court. Now, in most cases, whoever has the most money wins, right? Or the best lawyer. Um, and that is very, very true. But in the case of like the video games and stuff, um, it's really more of a paper house of cards, man. Um, it looks intimidating and all this other kind of shit, but it's riddled with inconsistencies and holes, and especially if you're not charging for whatever service you're providing, there isn't going to be anything that you're going to be accountable for, providing that you're not using their current technology and their current offerings and stuff like that. Um, and that can get pretty deep, but that's the basics. So yes, Activision is full of shit, and we really need to stop supporting that company in and of its entirety. Support the modding community, please, because they are absolutely in the right. And, you know, so speak to Activision with your pocketbook. Uh, don't pay for that shit. Don't buy that shit. I'm personally never going to buy from Activision again. Period. I don't care. I understand that Activision Blizzard makes things like Diablo and the new Diablos. I'm not buying it. I'm not. I, sorry. I've got Diablo 3, the Diablo 2 remastered. I've got the old Diablo battle chest. It was out back in the day. Warcraft 3, all that shit. I've bought a lot of shit from Activision Blizzard for a long time. I'm relatively late to this COD thing, but I'm just saying, Activision Blizzard, my opinion, you're done. So take a take a page from my book and say fuck them. Okay. So they are an example of what a gaming company does wrong with its modding community. So closing out, I'm going to actually, just go through another gaming company that I have thoroughly enjoyed since I back played on Xbox. Um, because it's only in the last couple years that I've had a powerful enough PC to work with modern games. Um, I've done a lot more with Linux and things on that end. Um, but as far as my gaming would go, I've been gaming on consoles for a long time. Okay. And so Bethesda, the makers of Skyrim and Fallout series, which most people now know, I got my start with back in Morrowind. Um, on the OG Xbox, uh, no direct teleportation, no console commands. I love that game. It's been 15 ish or more years since I played it, but that was a great one. Then Oblivion came out, and oh my god, the quality of life improvements. I still did prefer Morrowind story wise, but Oblivion was pretty good. Skyrim, whole nother level. And that was the one that I first started to mod because, again, I finally had a PC that could handle the shit, right? So this is um, my mod organizer of choice was Vortex because it's easy. You have a lot in the community that they prefer mod organizer to. I've also used that one. They both have their place. They're both excellent. It's just going to depend on what you want to do. I've been in the tech field for 20 plus years. When I sit down and mod, I just want it to fucking work. And Vortex seems to do that a little better than Mod Organizer 2 for me. I don't have to think about load order and everything at this point. And I know how to troubleshoot this shit. So it works for me personally. Now, why would we use this? Because we want to put mods on our stuff. Okay? And Bethesda is a company that has embraced and made use of its modding community. And this, in my view, is how a gaming, nay, a tech company should behave with the consumer base. Because when your stuff is no longer supported in a public fashion by your company, and Bethesda still does support their games. Do not misunderstand with that statement, but when you're not supporting certain features or your product's life cycle has ended, and there is a finite life cycle with most things, um, especially in the tech world. If you take some of the older Windows versions, 95, 98, 2000, um, XP, 7, 8.1, and now 8.2, there's lots of third-party support out there, and Microsoft is not suing their pants off. Um, so it's kind of similar to where the modding communities are in offering third-party support to customers of Bethesda, right? And it increases the longevity of a game. It allows for creativity within a product, and it it joins the community with the game producer and their consumer. Bethesda even came up with, whether you love it or hate it, the Creation Club, and it's an opportunity for some modders out there to put their shit on to Bethesda games and get paid for it. Legit. They are endorsed by Bethesda. Even the ones that aren't on the Creation Club are, they're allowed, providing that they do not conflict or compete with anything that's on the Creation Club. And if they do, generally what happens is that modder is contacted and said, hey, this kind of conflicts, or, we could see this particular mod, pulling income from our shit. Can we just add it to the Creation Club? I mean, that way it's not free development, but for all the other mods, it's allowed, if not openly endorsed, to modify the games. This is how a good game company should operate. Because, especially in Bethesda's case, their games are normally released in a slightly broken state. Anybody that's a long-time player knows this. And we've come to expect it and almost enjoy it, finding these bugs and stuff, because we know that somebody out there is going to fix it. Because the community is so tight-knit and on point with Bethesda. And it's okay. And Bethesda knows that they are going to get their shit fixed by members of the community. And whether that's right or wrong, it's a lot better than a company that just outright wants to stifle their community. Straight up wants to stifle their community, attempt to hold all profit, and extort their customer base. Really, it's what they're doing. They're extorting their customer base. Um, and again, with a lot of their older tech, they really don't have a leg to stand on. Um, Sorry, you can think what you want about that. Like, well, it's not right. They should get paid. Yeah, they should get paid during their product's life cycle. Absolutely. When that life cycle is over, it's the Wild West. It's free reign, and there's no piracy that occurs, especially after that point. And for piracy to occur, which is what a lot of these game companies try to, oh, we got such and such pirated. Once you make something publicly available, no, no. And if you want to prove piracy, you have to actually prove piracy. You have to hire a little team to come in and backtrace it and confirm that that file was actually stolen from you and all this other stuff. And you have to prove passing of custody and a whole bunch of other things. But none of these fucking game companies want to pay for that. Government doesn't pay for that. FBI is not on fucking speed dial to these dip dunks. In fact, if they called up the FBI and said, "Hey, we want you to trace these fuckers that we're calling pirates," okay, um, why are you wasting my time? Or you need to call the customer service rep. I got shit to do, and I need orders from higher up because that's not worth my time. Um, or they can call somebody in the private sector, a little security firm or some shit like that, or a large security firm in the private sector, but same diff. And they might say, well, you're not wasting my time, but it's going to cost you an assload of money. Because it is. Like in the hundreds of thousands, for instance. So, most companies in the civilian sector do not want to pay for that kind of thing. So, while the tech companies are actually, or while the gaming companies are actually in the tech sphere, they're kind of the bottom bitch, importance wise. Um, so a lot of the punishments and stuff that we've been told that would happen if we did XYZ since the 80s and 90s, it's bullshit. If you've ever been told that there's illegal downloads and you'll go to jail and again XYZ, you were told wrong. And uh, no, that's not how any of that works. You might be subject to a lawsuit just because they don't like you, right? That's what it amounts to. They don't like you. They don't like what you're doing. And they think that they still own whatever once it's sold. No, they don't. Once you sell a thing to the public, it's theirs now. Well, what about the legal stuff and the documents and the terms of service and all that stuff? And I have to click OK. Okay. First of all, in the old school games, for instance, you had that little pamphlet in front of your game that none of us fucking read because we were like 10 or 5. Um, our parents bought the games. They didn't read them. Or, we rented the games from a video store. And they sometimes had books, sometimes didn't. Um, Reading a document does not constitute uh, a legal contract, first and foremost. Reading a document does not constitute a legal binding contract. You cannot legally bind children, and that's who most video games are sold to. You cannot legally bind children to a contract, and that's who the audience is. You cannot hold, obviously, the parents accountable for a legally bound contract in the form of either purchase or clicking OK and all that kind of stuff. The only way that you can actually hold somebody to a legally binding contract um, is if you sign it and it's witnessed. There's a whole bunch of legalese in there that says, yes, you are accountable. No, they better have fucking signatures and witnesses. Because once that shit goes to court, that's what it's going to come down to. You can get a temporary, signature, and there's a lot of things that you can sign um, digitally these days. But when it comes down to it, there's always somewhere that you are going to have to sign and normally have some kind of witness or some other verification. But that's with the old school games. And again, today you're just clicking OK, but that's still not really legally binding at the end of the day. They can say it is. They absolutely can say it is, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit. I mean, most of my customers was the, US military for different products and stuff like that. Uh, yeah, I don't think that you're gonna have to worry about the legally bound bullshit of a video game company and its product description. They're a consumer electronic by definition. That's what they are. They are a consumer electronic, which means that some of the things that are out there, like from back in the day, like the anti-piracy and stuff like that, that was in specific games. This is going to be for another video. That's actually that's a major cybersecurity violation and can be considered basically setting a self-destruct on your consumer's good. So there's another example of bullshit the gaming companies have done to us over the years. But Bethesda, coming back on them and giving them a little bit of a spotlight for being a quote unquote upstanding or more upstanding example of how a game company should be versus, say, how Activision is currently and Nintendo is currently. um, this actually makes me a bit happier. And this is the way that, you know, many many companies should actually go is allowing for mods, embracing their community. You'll get way more number one cooperation because like I said, there is a finite point where you're no longer able to maintain control of your product. It has a life cycle, and this is known. It's absolutely known. And there's only a couple recourses of action. Copyright is bullshit when you're talking about the tech industry. So if they're talking, oh, copyright bullshit, fuck off, suck a dick, and, show me the patent, show me your trademarks, all that kind of stuff. Tell me what I violated there. Now, if I tear your story out whole cloth and try to sell that shit as mine, yes, that's a violation of copyright. And I'm going to have to pay for that. If I sell a Nintendo as a Nintendo unmodified, I'm just reselling the system. If I modify the system to work differently, I have to designate that this is a modified system, but I can still sell that motherfucker. Same way with games. And even form factor. There's a bunch of stuff. Uh, I truly hate companies like Activision. So, in closing, if you're into this Activision stuff and you play Call of Duty, stop. Just stop. Do not buy the next entry. Do not buy any more Activision shit or Blizzard. Call it good. They're a piece of shit company. Um, they no longer deserve your dollars or mine. You're throwing money away and you're supporting a garbage corporation. If you want to get into modding, I advise to. It's great. If you don't want to get into, say, modding, but you want to get into a bit more, emulation, that I would recommend something like RetroArch. That's for like your old school Nintendo games. Um, via RetroArch, you can now play up through the PS2, I believe, and there's a bunch of standalone emulators for the PS3. I want to say up to Xbox 360. Yeah, because everything that isn't current gen is technically a retro game and has gone beyond its life cycle. Remember that. Everything that isn't current gen, whether that's game, software, etc., has pretty much legally gone beyond its life cycle. So, think about that when you're purchasing games and all that other kind of stuff as far as what you can do and what you can't do. What about the remasters and stuff released by XYZ company? That is now that gen's technology. When that specific game. So let's take for instance, if you had a Mario game that was remastered for the Switch, that remaster is a different game than your original Mario game that, let's say, was for the Super Nintendo. So you absolutely can do whatever the hell you want to with that Super Nintendo game. Since the current tech is the Switch, that's their shit, that's their stuff right now, and you need to be a bit more careful unless you actually purchase it, right? Once they go to the Switch 2, which is supposed to be released soon, all the Switch stuff, that's not open for third party support. Sorry, that's the way it works. So, stop supporting Activision and pay a bit more attention to what you're getting to within this modern gaming thing. Look into some of your older games and, come together in these modding communities because those things are great. I would like to see the COD modding community actually take off with these people that are actually out there doing this shit, and the cease and desist, they're bullshit. Please continue to do your modding and all that kind of stuff. I actually like the gameplay. I hate the monetization. So I mean, if there's something out there for me to come and play somebody's modified version, I will gladly come and play there. Hell, I'll pay for the privilege, providing it's a fair charge. That's neither here nor there. So, in closing, I'm Lloyd here on channel FNG007. My link tree will be in the description You can Google my name to find out anything you want about me at this point. I've got, stuff in here, some free resources, some um, stuff, and I'll have lots more things coming up in the retro gaming and old school gaming, that kind of thing. Like and subscribe. Hell, even comment if you hate me because it all helps the algorithm. Till the next one, have a great one.